The main thing lawyers are supposed to do when you are suing is trying to make you feel like what you feel is invalidated. So that was part of the mental thing. Like, am I just being too sensitive? Is it not this big a deal? But it is, because at the end of the day, I wasn't allowed to do what I love, not because of anything other than my skin and my refusal to make my skin the blunt of somebody's joke.
Welcome to Season 2 of Students of Mind, the podcast where we aim to normalize conversations about mental health. Last season, we connected you with experts in the field of mental health to provide an understanding of topics and illnesses that may not have been easily accessible. This season, we will continue our learning journey together by not only speaking to experts, but also by listening to the voices and stories of real people who are living, surviving, and even thriving, while also facing challenges with their mental health in their everyday life. This season, we want to hear your stories to get the full truth of what it's like to manage one's mental health and navigate living with mental illness. My name is Jayde, and today I'm joined by Jasmine Orsted. Jasmine is here to share about being the victim of racist bullying, suing the school that mistreated her and so many other Black students, and the ways in which this journey affected her mental health. I hope by listening to the show, you're able to learn something new and gain some encouragement through hearing our experts and listening to the journeys of our guests. However, this show is not a substitute for professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your mental health professional or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have about your condition. Never disregard professional advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on the Students of Mind podcast. Today's guest is Jasmine Orsted. Jasmine is a model, brand ambassador, athlete, and mental health and anti-bullying speaker and advocate. While preparing to try out for a college basketball team, Jasmine experienced some intense bullying and discrimination from her teammates and school staff, leading ultimately to a lawsuit. Today, Jasmine shares her story and uses her experience to speak up against both bullying and racism. In our conversation, Jasmine details her journey from start to present, the mental health implications that she went through, and what it's been like to be able to have a voice and story that reaches many people. Good afternoon, Jasmine. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Of course. So before we get into the topic and the nitty-gritty of everything, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and some of the work that you do?
So currently I do brand ambassador stuff like on the side, but my main goal is to continue talking about my story and sharing it with people, just letting them to know that they can overcome bullying and prosper, and they don't have to turn to self-harm or self-hate or anything of that nature. And just ultimately, I would like to have a nonprofit that I can go into different communities and spread that knowledge.
Great. So are you still in school now, or have you finished?
I am not in school. Unfortunately, I was playing ball and I got hurt, so I lost my scholarship. But I do plan on going back one day. I'm only a couple classes short of my psychology, so got to get that.
Oh, that's great that you're close. Oh, so school. I was just gonna say, I also not in college, but I did dance in high school and got injured and had to stop. And I just remember having that break because for me, I had been dancing since I was like 3. And so
Yeah.
having that break was like crazy for me to be like, wow, like I can like rest Like I don't
Yeah.
like I feel like I can rest for a second. Like I don't have to be in the dance studio because I literally am injured and can't.
Yeah.
I just wondered like what that experience has been for you. Like if you've played basketball for a long time, what it's like having to be kind of forced to take a break.
Um, I mean, for me, just because like the situation prior, like, we're going to get into that, but I wasn't allowed to play just because of my skin. The next year that I did get to play, I was super excited and I was excited about school and everything. And then I got hurt and it was kind of like, darn, but I think everything works out how it's supposed to. So I know that although I didn't want to have to take that break, I definitely needed it. And whenever I do get to go back to playing ball, whether that's school, whether that's recreation, I'm going to give my all and it's going to make me appreciate it so much more. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, that's going to be really great. So let's just jump right into it. So I think I just want you to kind of, you shared it with me a bit, but can you like share your story, go into as much detail as you want, take as much time as you want, but share with us the story that you've been sharing and are hoping to develop into something bigger.
All right. Well, I have loved basketball since as far as I can remember. So I graduated high school, but I didn't want to leave my parents. So I decided to go to a junior college so I could be near them, give basketball, another go. And I set 8 school records while I was at my junior college. I was MVP. I was on the dean's list and president's list. And I knew that I wanted to continue in the game. And ultimately, I knew I wanted to go overseas and play ball. So I scouted out Division threes. And I scouted out Division threes because I knew Division three I could be All American. So when I go and talk to an overseas coach and they see that I'm averaging, stats that I could average at a Division three, they'll be like, oh, okay, let's give her a chance. So I found this school, and the name of it is University of Mary Washington. And I had actually played against these girls in a summer league that I was went to every summer. So I saw face to face like how we stacked up. So I was very confident. I talked to the coach, and she told me all I had to do was get through 2 months of preseason, and I would be allowed to try out. And given that, again, I had researched the statistics and I had better stats than the girls returning. There were some girls that had only scored 2 points the entire season prior. I was like, okay, I can definitely fit in here. I can definitely be the big fish in the little pond, and I'll still be near my parents. So I was excited. But from day one, it was a primarily white institution. There was 16 of us trying out, and only 14 could make it, and 4 of us were Black. So from day one, we came into the gym and we were stretching, and one of the white girls said to another white girl, why do Black people name their kids the way they do? And another white girl says, well, I don't know. My high school wasn't in the ghetto. We only ever had 1 or 2 Black girls on our team, and that's the way I like it. And that was day one. And I'm like, what is this? Is this Get Out? Is this like, I'm so confused. But it continued and it got worse, and it was a divide that myself and another young Black woman, she didn't go along or make the Black jokes. But the other 2 that did was the ones that were accepted. For instance, we had to go around a circle and tell things about ourselves. When it got to one of the white women, she said that her family had did a missionary trip in Haiti, which is a beautiful thing. Then another white woman responded and said, oh, so did you get a picture with a skinny, hungry Black boy? And all the girls fell on the ground laughing, including the other 2 Black girls, except for myself. And the young woman's name is Caitlin that didn't go along with stuff. And that was the kind of culture they went with through. So, I'm thinking the girl that had returned, she would tell them like that's inappropriate, like Black woman. But when it got to her, she said, oh, if you trace my last name, it goes to my family's slave owners. And again, all the girls fell on the ground laughing except for myself and Caitlin. So it progressed, and there was a divide because, again, Caitlin and I didn't go along with any of the Black jokes or comments being made. And it came to a point where it was 2 of the girls' birthdays. So they wanted everybody to pay for alcohol. And I was underage. And I also knew the implications that if I do provide money for alcohol and then something happens, because there was various rumors that girls would get drunk, and then when the cops were coming, like everybody would just have to run, and you can never be in control of that situation. So I didn't give them any money for that. But I did get like these huge birthday cards. I got the coaches to sign it, the trainers, one of the girls' boyfriends, like just trying to show like I'm not going to go to your party because I don't drink, but I am trying to be your friend. And Caitlin was younger, so she was thinking, if I go to the party, I drink with them, then they're going to like me. So she went. That following Monday, the coach called her in and said, I am not going to let you try out because the girls told me that you were doing underage drinking. They didn't tell that they did it. They didn't tell that they provided the alcohol, just that she did it. So she wasn't allowed to try out. And she also said that they don't think that you fit in. And so I knew at that point that they were going to try to do any and everything to get me, because had I drank, then that would have been me as well. So many situations came up where they tried to make me mad. One time we had to go around the room and tell what our ethnicities were. And they saw my dad and they saw my mom pick me up and drop me off. So they created this situation just for me to get angry. But, they're going around the room and other girls are saying, German, Irish, different things of that nature. But when it gets to one of the other Black girls, she says, oh, well, one of my parents is Black, but the other one is blurple, like so dark they're purple. And again, everybody falls on the ground laughing, except for me. So when they get to me, I say my mom is African American and my dad is Norwegian. And they said, so he's European. And I said, yes. So he's white. And I said, yes. So your white daddy had a kid with a Black woman and actually married her. And I say yes, because it was 2014 at the time. Like, interracial marriages, relationship is not a unicorn on a blue moon. It's not. So I said, yeah. And so half of them fell on the ground laughing and the other half looked like they wanted to throw up. But that whole situation was created for me to get angry and, go off. And I didn't, because I know, navigating the world as a Black woman, as soon as I say something, it can get escalated into, oh, you're just an angry Black woman, you don't know how to control yourself. So throughout the situation, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, if I just keep being nice to you, you can't hate me. And, my mom, older, much wiser, said, Jazz, you can't think that if you're going to be so nice that you're going to overcome 20, 22, however many years old they are, worth of hate if it's been installed in them. But, I kept thinking that. And then it got to the point where I was like, well, if I just keep getting better at basketball, like they're going to have to respect me on the court and want me on the team. And again, my mom's like, well, you still need to keep note of everything, because nobody's going to think, oh, Jazz is so good, I want her on the team instead of me. But, I was naive. I was 20. So another time we had to run a mile every week, right? And normally we would walk over there together. And I had the latest get out time for class. I got out at 2:50. And normally we met at 3:30 to, do our miles, do open gym, whatever the case may be. But on this day, the girls decided, they would try to put another obstacle in my way. And they sent out a text at like 2:30 saying, well, we're going to have to start sprints at 3 o'clock. So whoever isn't there, we're going to have to report you to coach. And they knew I wouldn't see it till 2:50 and that I didn't have a car to drive the mile to get to the track. But I knew what was going on. It was after Caitlin was not allowed to try out. So I saw the text and I'm like, I'm not going to give them the opportunity to like say something negative about me. So I run out of class. I like sprint down the stairs and I'm like changing my clothes on the way to the track. And I get there and, I'm out of breath because I'm carrying all my stuff and everything. And they're like, no, we have to do the mile now unless you want to wait and we have to tell coach. And I'm like, okay, no, I'm just going to go. So I then run another mile. So then, I'm tired and I like collapse on the bleachers. And I look up and all the girls have ran to their cars and they're leaving. And again, I'm naive. I'm like, oh, they must have like forgot. They don't see that I'm not in the cars with somebody. So I run to the side road and all of them just drive by me and leave me there. So then I have to walk another mile back to the campus and it starts raining and I get to the weight room and everybody's there and they're just looking at me like they're expecting me to break. And I didn't, but that was the type of mental anguish that they put me through. But I just kept thinking, I get to the end of this. I'm going to try out. I'm going to make it. And the coach is going to be around. So they're not going to be allowed to do these type of things or say these type of things. Or I'm going to be your teammate. So you have to respect me more than just somebody trying to walk on. 2 weeks before tryouts, the coach calls me in and says, I'm not going to let you try out. And I'm confused because I'm like, where is this coming from? And she says, well, the girls said that they don't want you to try out. And I told her, that might be due to the fact that I'm not making nor laughing at the Black comments that are being made, and I'm not participating in underage drinking. And she told me, good, bad, or otherwise, right, wrong, or otherwise, I'm going to go with them and not let you try out, despite me, telling her everything that went on. So my family and I tried to go through the school. We met with like different administrators, and they just they supported the coach. They said that, we don't believe anything you're saying. And that was what she told me. She told me, I've had a variety of girls over the years, so I don't believe anything that you're saying. And I ended up sneaking on campus and going to the library. And I found over the course of 14 years, she only ever had 2 Black girls play for her. And she told me that was a variety. Unless you're counting brunettes, redheads, blondes, that's not a variety. But we tried to go through the school, and they just said that they were going to stick beside the coach and that the girls wouldn't do these things, even though I had text messages to prove everything. The girls ended up stalking me. My mom had to call the school and tell them to stop that, because if anything ever happened to me, like, there would be consequences. And the last real interaction I had was that same summer camp I mentioned in the beginning. They played in it the following summer, where I wasn't allowed to try out. And only 4 of them actually played on a team. But the day that they were playing against my team, the whole team showed up. They brought their friends, their family, wanting to see me lose, even though, they were the ones that had hurt me. And my team ended up winning by 20. So with a minute left, all of the girls checked out of the game and left the gym, their families included, because they didn't want to have to shake my hand or see me win, even though, and I kind of thought, like, after I wasn't allowed to try out and going through the school and everything didn't work out, and Division 3, it's based on sportsmanship, so it's within their rules that you have to let somebody try out, even if they had never touched a basketball, much less coming from setting school records and whatnot. I was really depressed. There was a long point where I didn't want to get out of bed. I just didn't want to eat. And I credit, my mom getting me out of that funk and, telling me, like, you're going to let them win. Like, if you don't want to do basketball anymore, you don't want to pursue this, then that's fine. That's what you can do. But as of right now, this crying, this is not getting anything done. So then I worked hard knowing eventually, like, I'm going to have to play against them in a game, and, I'm going to get my day on court. And so then when, I won and you can't even shake my hand, like, that hurt because, it's like still. But I ended up walking on at Bowie State University. Go Bulldogs. That's the high level, D2 HBCU. I walked on. My parents told me, we don't have, money just to send you there because it was more expensive being out of state or whatnot. So they told me I had a semester to get a scholarship. And I did that. I got on the team. I got in the starting lineup. I got a scholarship. I got a 4.0. And, it just gave me another chance to follow what I loved. And like I said, I ended up getting the injury. But I know the injury had to come because since I wasn't able to go to school and practices, I had to focus on the lawsuit. And we ended up settling. So, everything happens for a reason. And that's the story pretty much.
Wow, it's really amazing. I like First question I have is when did all of this happen? How long ago was this?
2014, 2015, so about 6, 7 years.
So I'm just amazed by the urgency that you and your family had with dealing with the situation and being able to be in the moment and realize how messed up of a situation you were in, and then have the sense of urgency and agency to be like, okay, we can file a lawsuit about this. I feel like there's so many families that would have just left, or who would have waited until their child finished schooling to go through with a lawsuit. So I think that's really amazing and brave that you guys were like so quick to do that. Um,
Thank
and I
you.
just wonder, like, that process, I can imagine is a whole other level of stressful. Um, so what was the process of like dealing with the lawsuit like?
So it officially began after the last meeting we had with the school when they told me I wasn't going to be allowed to try out. Um, and it was just kind of them like saying like, that again, like we've had a variety of girls, and that is what led to me, sneaking on campus. I put a wig on, I put a hoodie on, like just going through the different yearbooks, like trying to see like, okay, have you had a variety? And then finding out that she went 7 years without a Black person at all. And given this area of Virginia, it's very hard to see that not being intentional. Again, given that it's Division three, it's not like this is a high level of play. So part of the driving force for myself and my family was how many other Black girls tried to go here and wanted to pursue their education and the love of ball, and they could have qualified as far as like talent wise went, but because of their skin color they weren't allowed to pursue it, or they were like me, they didn't go along or make the Black jokes that is a part of the culture there. And that was what really drove us. But it was kind of slow and steady. When I was at Bowie, I really couldn't focus on it because you having 3 practices a day. My normal day was we would have practice at 6 a.m., which means you need to be there 5:40 a.m. the latest. And given I live in Woodbridge, that is an hour and a half away. I bet you're from this area. Baltimore. That whole traffic is crazy. So if I'm at best thinking an hour and a half, I need to leave, maybe 2-ish hours before that. So I would be leaving my house at like 3 in the morning. Do a 2 hour practice, then I have classes, then we have another practice, and then you have to do your weights or your individual with a coach. And my last class would get out at 10 p.m. So then another hour and a half, and I'm at home at 11:30, but you got to do homework. So there were a lot of days where I was just running on Starbucks, go 3 or 4 days without sleep. So I couldn't focus on the lawsuit or anything outside of ball. But when I got injured, that was all I had to focus on. And that's why I'm saying, my injury was necessary because I feel like the impact that this is going to be able to have on other people is greater than me just being able to finish that season. But as far as the lawsuit, it was a lot. It's I think the main driving factor for the main thing lawyers are supposed to do when you are suing is trying to make you feel like what you feel is invalidated or it's has no ground to stand on. So that was part of the mental thing, like am I just being too sensitive? Like, is it not this big a deal? But it is, because at the end of the day, I wasn't allowed to do what I love, not because of my talent, because I didn't even get a tryout, not because of anything other than my skin and my refusal to make my skin the blunt of somebody's joke. So I would say like that was the real tough part about it, is like standing in my why and why this is important to me.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Like, I just know the nature of law is very much two sides trying to prove that they are right. And I can just imagine in a situation like this that's so raw and vulnerable, having that mixed with something like law where the other side is trying to tell you that you're wrong can be taxing in a way that a lot of people have not experienced.
Yeah, it was just crazy, And also for me, I came to realize that given the situation, there was no way that I would have been successful because the other young woman I mentioned that she didn't make or go along with the black jokes, but she did end up drinking with them. She ended up being stalked on campus as well. And there's this app, it's like it's called Yik Yak. It's like an anonymous Twitter, but she received death threats and she was called the N word. And it's like the school didn't check into it. So she ended up turning to drinking and drugs really bad and she flunked her classes. And so I tried to get her to join in a lawsuit with me. And the school met with her and her family and said, well, if you want to join with Jasmine, that's fine. But unfortunately, we will have to contact the local authorities and let them know that, you broke the law and you have a record. But if you don't, we won't tell the local authorities and we will expunge your record. So the next college you go to won't have to know that you flunked out, which is illegal. And they try to do the same thing with me, but I didn't flunk out, so it would have been no benefit to me. But then when the state's attorney of Virginia got involved in a lawsuit, they said that it was my fault that the girls didn't get along with me because I didn't drink with them. And knowing that I was underage at the time, you're advising me to do something illegal that you just held against the person that did the same thing. So yeah, it was just kind of, mental stress to realize that, in any given situation, I wasn't going to be able to win and wasn't going to have been successful there. So that was part of it. But, really, I just wanted to leave an impact. And, there were still parts of the lawsuit that I was hopeful that that could happen. When initially the school wanted to settle, they wanted to give me $250,000 and just walk away. And I said, no, I said, give me no money. Just let me come back and play. Because I know if I come back and play, I'm going to break every single record they have. And it's going to be a black girl that did it. And you can't take away from that. And they said no. So we ended up having to settle. But part of that was they have to recruit girls. They have to recruit minorities more heavily. And like I said, it took her 14 years to have 2 black girls. It's been 6 years since my lawsuit, and they've had 7. So, that's kind of a win in my eyes because that might have been girls that otherwise wouldn't have been allowed to go and continue their dream and get their education.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm truly like amazed by all of this, just because of the nature of bullying and racism and being a woman and college and having all of that come to a head with this is just I'm just trying to hold so much space for you because I can just imagine how overwhelming that probably was in the moment. And I wanted to ask, speaking more about just, living as a Black woman, when you went to this college, it was predominantly white. Had you had experiences like in institutions that were predominantly white prior to going to this college, or was this kind of like your first time being in an environment like that?
Well, the area that I'm from in Woodbridge, it's a mixing pot of every country, everything you can imagine. But when I was younger, my mother and I had to move to Tennessee. She had to take care of my grandfather when he had cancer and she had cancer at the same time. And there, the Black community in that town makes up, I think, 3% of the population. So that was a very it wasn't a lot of minorities there and in school. So that wasn't like the situation at Mary Washington. I've definitely been on teams where I'm either the 1 or the 2 black girl, but we didn't have issues like that on the team. We're all different, but the love of basketball bonded, all of us. There were situations, but it was never, I'm not given the opportunity to do something just because of my skin color or, any type of like that was never an issue. And I'll say, when you have to navigate the world or, specifically white spaces as a Black woman, you are reminded of that. That's something you can't ignore, whether it's skin tone, whether it's hair texture, whether it's just the way we're shaped. Like, we know that we stick out, but it's when, and, I know, I'll say for myself, like, you tend to try to shrink yourself. But what I will not and never going to do is make myself the blunt of the joke just to fit in. Like, no, I can be great. I can be amazing. As a Black woman, I don't have to be a joke for you to accept me. So I guess that was kind of, what motivated me, because I don't want any person to have, any Black woman, any minority woman, anybody to think, well, for me to be accepted, I need to make myself, my ancestry, whatever, the blunt of somebody's joke.
Yeah. And I mean, you're totally right. And I wonder what kind of some of the other mental health things that you were experiencing while you were in that space, and, while you were experiencing the bullying, what kind of things were going through your mind, and how were you coping with that?
I would say in the moment when I was still like, thinking I could change them by being nice and, getting better at ball, I wasn't trying to like really focus on hurting at the comments and everything. I just kept thinking, love and sunshine, win the day. And it didn't. But it was after the fact that it's like, I'm really not going to be able to try out. I'm really not going to be able to do something I've, you said you've done sports too. It becomes a part of your identity to have all of that washed away just because somebody said they don't want me to try out, and it's not founded on anything other than I'm not allowing you to make me a joke, make my parents make, a punchline. It messed with my mind. That's what I'm saying. Like, I didn't eat. I didn't want to leave bed. Like, I only left for classes. But outside of that, nothing. And I think that is why, my mom ended up having to intervene, because she could notice that within me. Like, that's not my personality whatsoever. I'm quiet for sure, but I'm not withdrawn like that. So I would say, like, I definitely probably would have went to a deeper and darker space, like, had my parents not involved and taken that initiative to be like, okay, no, we need to get you to get focused back on ball or something else, whatever. You just got to get out of this hole. So my mom ended up making me do like modeling classes and make me get into acting, I guess, just to help like my self image overall. And like, it definitely did help. And I would say like that's what sparked me as well to like get back into ball. Like, no, like, you're not going to take this away from me. Like, no, I deserve this. Everything, all these years I've put behind it, and I didn't even get a tryout, because it would have been a completely different game, had I tried out and you said I didn't have ABC. That would have been life. But I didn't even get a tryout when it's mandated that you have to give somebody a tryout, you know. And I would also say, like, what got me out of that was, my mom talking to me, like, how many other Black girls do you think went through this, that they ended up just walking away? They end up saying, it's not that big a deal, or, I don't have to go to school, or whatever the case may be. Because for a lot of people, sports is what drives you to finish your education. The love for that. What really got me out of that was like finding a why. And for me, why is always like better when it's motivated by other people and like the impact I can have on other people. So that, and then, I tried different things. I got into yoga. Yoga's cool, but really, I would just say, like, taking the time and even looking at statistics. Like, there's all these different statistics out there when it comes to minorities and bullying and suicide and self-harm, that it's just like, I really want to do something to combat that. And like, it started as, let me see the impact that I can leave on this school. And I feel like I did that. But now it's like, I want to do it on a bigger scale. Like, I've been working on writing a book because I feel like I want to get my story out there and let people know that they can overcome. But it's from 2001 to 2017, there was a study, and they found that Black male adolescent youth commit suicide at 60-ish% more than in previous years, and Black female adolescent youth commit suicide at like 160 more in percent. And it's like, that's something we don't talk about. I don't feel like mental health is prioritized within our community. So that has to change because our youth is definitely feeling the side effects of that.
And like even more in sports environments, mental health is rarely talked about.
Exactly.
And I think the fact that kind of you're doing this all under like your passion for basketball is really important because I feel like a lot of specifically Black kids who go to college under, you know, the passion of their sport, or, you know, it could be a sport, it could be art. That's what a lot of Black people end up kind of focusing on in college, and then kind of the education comes after that. And then having those be spaces where mental health isn't prioritized is really dangerous. And then having all of us Black people in all of these predominantly white spaces without resources to help our mental health is extremely dangerous as well. So hearing you doing the work that you do makes me feel good, because it's like this is the type of work that needs to be done, because we're, like you're saying, you know, that was back in between 2001 2017, but statistics like that are still happening today, especially since the pandemic.
Exactly.
Young Black kids are killing themselves at way higher rates than other ethnicities, and no one's talking about it. And it's like, how can we not be talking about this? So yes, I totally agree with everything you said. And I think it's great that you're using your story to kind of contribute to, you know, this conversation.
Thank you. I definitely appreciate that. And, again, following what you're saying, even when we get to like athletes like the NFL, like I cannot remember the statistic off of my head, but a lot of them, once they lose that part of their identity, whether it's having to retire because of old age or injury, a lot of them turn to self harm and suicide as well. So there's definitely something that needs to be done, and like to find that correlation and try to take out whatever factor it is, or just try to combat it instead of just letting it progress, because that's breaking apart families, that's taking away lives that could have been saved.
So, quick follow-up question. Before college, had you experienced bullying, whether it was like similar in that it was like race related, or even if it wasn't race related? Did you ever experience bullying before college?
So I would say there was two main things that happened when I was in high school. One was that it didn't involve me, but there was this kid, and he was just sitting outside of the lunchroom reading his manga, and these kids just started throwing food at him and like calling him a loser, and it was just like, it was my senior year, so I'm like, I don't know if these kids were freshmen. I don't understand how you could even think that that was okay, but I stopped them. I told the school, and like for the rest of the year, my friends and I would eat with him to, like protect him from that happening again. So like that didn't affect me. but it didn't affect me directly, but it did affect me in seeing like, this isn't okay. Like, what if I hadn't have been there? What if, my friends hadn't have been there to intervene? Like, what kind of long lasting effects would that have left on him, mentally, emotionally, all that. But for myself, there was this, I don't know if they still do it now, but it's like this company that comes into malls, and like they say that they're looking for models, and they kind of just have you pay, and it's like you're not really supposed to pay when you're trying to get into modeling. But somebody had put my name and like my number into the box. So when I got a call from them, I was like, oh my gosh, like somebody thought I was pretty and thought I should be a model. And so I was like so happy, right? And like my parents were gonna pay for it and everything because I was excited. I was, and I was a huge fan of America's Next Top Model. Like I was probably Tyra's biggest fan. So then I was at school and I was like, yeah, like I'm gonna get into this like once the season ends. And somebody like pulled me to the side and they were like, that was a joke, right? Like this whole time it's been a joke. And I was like, oh, I didn't know. So then it's like I had to tell my parents, and yeah, that was embarrassing. But life comes full circle because now like I do modeling like as a side hustle. So it's fine. But just stuff like that. I think if we talk to kids and like we let them know, like you might think it's funny in the moment, but you never know what somebody has going on at home, that could really leave long lasting effects and really hurt them in how they see their self image, body image, just everything. So I'll say that's what I had to deal with. It's funny
Yeah.
now, but definitely in the moment, not so much.
Right. Yeah. I guess I also wonder, like, because with the situation when you were at college and the girls on the basketball team were bullying you, you didn't even have like the safety of of a coach who could intervene and stop it and recognize that what they were doing was wrong. Whereas like some people will have coaches who actually care, and so I just wonder, I guess in that situation, did you have anyone that you could go to at the school to talk about this besides like your other teammate who was also Black, or like your parents? Did you have anyone else there that you could like address the situation with and they would take it seriously?
Well, when we like first started talking to the administrators, I got an email from the lady that was the EEOC. So like, she handles all like race or like gender issues on campus. And I Googled her and I saw she was Black. And I was like, okay, like, she's going to understand this. She's going to be the one to be like, we really need to take this as a serious matter. And then I saw that she was also employed as a teacher. And my mom was like, that's definitely conflicting because she's not going to be on your side. And we ended up getting in a meeting with her. And my mom was correct. Again, moms are always right. Another situation that happened with the girls was two of the white girls came in, and one of them said, oh, I feel so gross, I didn't shave. And then another white girl said, well, don't feel bad because and she pointed at all of us, the Black girls, never shave. And everybody started laughing. And one of the other Black girls like referenced a woman that had played the year before, and she was African. So she had, a darker tone. She said, oh, well, she never had to shave because she was so dark. And again, all the girls fell on the ground laughing except for myself and the other girl. And so the EEOC lady brought it up. And she said, you definitely took that whole situation out of context. The white girls meant it as a compliment. Really, white women are jealous of Black women because we don't have to shave as much. And they didn't mean it. They didn't mean it as a compliment. They meant it as a hygiene issue. They meant it as it looks, whatever. It doesn't look appeasing to them, whatever the case may be. But at the very last thing, it was not a compliment. So like that was part of what I'm saying. Like, they try to play those mind games and make you feel like whatever your issue is insignificant. So that was the other person on campus we tried to talk to. There was also the dean of students, and we talked to him, and that was who my mom called when I was being stalked by the girls. And he was like, well, please believe I'm going to be the most sympathetic person on campus you talk to. And then we never heard it from him again. So I guess they figured he isn't the one that they need to be communicating with. Um, but I like outside of my family, and he wasn't at the school, I did have somebody I could reach out to. My coach from AU, his name is Coach Vernon. I always have to mention him because he's definitely like an angel. He was there, like, telling me, like, what, at the end of the day, Jazz, like, this is not going to be the end of the line for you. Like, this is not going to be the end of your career. Like, I guarantee you that. So his daughter, like, played overseas and everything. Like, he would try to have me get workouts with her and just look out for me. And he would come to my games in Bowie again, even though they're like 2 hours away. So I didn't have a resource there outside of Caitlin, but I definitely did have angels looking out for me. I can say that for sure.
Yeah, and that's great that you had that support. And I think everything you just said just shows the need for more unbiased resources or people at schools. So thinking about, yourself now, I guess, let me ask a first question. Before everything that's happened, how much knowledge or like awareness did you have around managing your mental health?
I would say I probably wasn't really aware of it. I knew I was happy. I mean, everybody has down days and everything, but I think because I was studying psychology and was not an expert, like I would notice like when I wasn't feeling good, even if I didn't recognize it, and that's when normally I would turn to basketball if it was basketball season, or even just going to the pickup court. Like it would make me happy, and then when I didn't want to do that and I just was lost in myself. Like I didn't notice the signs of you're probably depressed, Jazz, because you don't want to eat, and I love to eat. I don't, want to do any of the normal things. I don't have the energy to like get up. That's what I'm saying. Like I'm glad my parents stepped in, but I would say that it definitely made me had to be more aware. Because beforehand, I really, like bad things happen, but I had never just felt so, I guess, lost and just like, again, because I did everything right other than not having the right skin tone. So I would just say that, like, I wasn't, because I hadn't went through like something traumatic like that, I wasn't really aware of needing to stay positive or finding an outlet or checking my mental health.
Yeah, and you said something that stuck out that is important, I think, for everyone to realize is that you said it was just because of your skin tone, which, it's 2021 and you would think that things have changed, but it's too common that we as Black people get treated awfully because of our skin. And I think the fact that such a seemingly small characteristic can amount to so much damage and so much pain, and so many mental health implications.
I'm completely like agreeing with everything you're saying, because it's just like that's something you can't change. And it's like at the end of the day, like why would you? Like you love it. We love what we are, skin tone, all that. But just short of bleaching, you can't change that. And even if you bleach, like our characteristics, like I'm still gonna have my nose. I'm still gonna have everything that you can clearly see. My hair is still gonna be the same. So it's like you can try to run from it, but at the end of the day, like it's going to be obvious. So it's like, what can you do other than embrace it? And if embracing it like means the negativity, like obviously that's going to have, effect on us. I think definitely mental health therapy, all that should be highlighted more within the Black community, because it's like a 24-hour trauma almost, you can't really get away from it. Like you said, when you get to workspaces, everything, like is always going to be that reminder that you're the Black person here, or Black people, whatever.
And what's amazing about your story is that how you kind of adopted that mentality of like remaining in who you are, and like you were saying earlier, not letting yourself become the butt of the joke, you were doing that like immediately, which is amazing. And so I think your story, which is why like it's so great to hear that you're writing a book, because I think your story can be a really good example of how as Black women we can carry ourselves. Like your story shows that you can, stay like in your own, not give in to being the butt of the joke, and then come out the other side. You found a school that you like, you got to play basketball, now you're doing things and being able to share your story and reach so many people. So I just think your story is a great one to show success, and show that you can stay in yourself as a Black person and still achieve the things you want. But there may be, bumps, hiccups, mountains in the way, but you got through it. And I think as Black people, we need to see more of that. Unless we see too much Black people being demeaned or put down or shown that we're less than. And we need to see more stories like yours where you are just assertive and that assertion amounts to success.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel like this is like a responsibility that all of us as Black people have, whether we like
Mm.
recognize it or not. Like when you like, I know, code switching definitely is a thing. But when it comes to, letting people touch your hair or comb it like you're like pet it like you're a pet, or just thinking that the only way you can exist is to shrink yourself, or be the person that like, oh yeah, I'm the cool Black girl, like that means you can say the N-word, that means you can say whatever around me and it's going to be okay. Like no, that is not who we have to be to exist. Even like on a different scale, like was it last year or 2 years ago that now it is finally legal that you cannot judge somebody based on their hair, whether that's locks or a fro or whatever the case may be. Like if we didn't have those people that said, like, no, I don't have to wear a wig, I don't have to wear weave, I don't have to straighten my hair and to exist in these spaces, like I'm gonna be me unapologetically. Like if they didn't take the responsibility upon themselves, like we would still be having to change our features and everything to exist. So I think this is a responsibility that all of us really have to take on, whether we want to or not, and whether we acknowledge it or we don't. But we are setting the standards for the Black community to come.
Yes, I think that was beautifully said. And I think it's so true. And I think some people see that as like a burden or something to be overwhelmed by, which it can be overwhelming at
Mm-hmm.
times. But I try to embrace it and see it as something positive, as like we have the power to, start these changes and break these cycles. So for me, it's more exciting than anything to, be in the position of having the responsibility to kind of initiate these changes.
Exactly. You got to be the change that you want to see at the end of the day. So
Right.
just got to step up to it.
Great. So I have two last questions. So I want to ask, kind of just to like sum everything up, how has the experience from, first meeting your potential teammates to settling for the lawsuit, how has that entire experience affect how you live now?
I guess just that I am important, and even though I'm one voice, I can make a change. I would think before this, because I was quiet, and like I'm still quiet now, but I've had to be more outspoken. But I never would have thought that I could impact anybody outside of myself. And now, like I said, like whether I realize it or not, like I did have the power to change something for the better for the next person. And I think that is what everybody's goal, like maybe not goal, but that is what my goal is, to leave the world better than how I found it. So I would say that is really what it taught me, and the importance of standing up for yourself, because you're not just standing up for yourself in that type of situation, you're standing up for the next Black girl that's going to come along, or the ones before you that couldn't say anything. Because the Washington Post covered it, the Root, I had like a lot of Colin Kaepernick retweeted it. That made me like super happy, because like I think he's like an idol, and B.L. Hughley like covered it too. But I had people messaging me on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, everything. Whether it was the younger generation, like saying, like, I really didn't realize this still happened. I'm glad you stood up. Or it was people that were older saying, back in my day, I couldn't have did anything. So like, I was glad to see that somebody else is. And I guess I know I made it longer, but that's like, I guess the important thing to me is now seeing that I can impact people and I can leave the world better than when I found it.
I know I said I only had 2 questions, but after hearing that, like, you've gotten all this coverage, and you've actually gotten feedback, what is that experience like? Like, actually hearing people respond to all of the success that you've had and the impact that you've had already. What has that been like?
That was just amazing. Like the fact that people took the time to, not only like acknowledge the pain that I went through, but say how it resonated with them and how it impacted them and made them feel good. Like if a similar situation to them happened in the past, that it made them feel like, okay, but now the world is changing, or they were going through a similar situation, because I've had parents reach out to me about it, or their kids are going through it. Our kids knowing in the future, like, if I come upon the situation, that I don't just have to be okay, go along to get along, I can stand up. It's been overwhelming. It was amazing. It just really like made my heart feel full, I guess, just to know that I can help somebody else out just by telling my truth.
Great. Okay. So, lastly, how can my audience and I stay up to date with you and the work that you're doing?
You can reach me on Instagram, Jasmine Orsted, Facebook as well, Twitter. They're all the same, just Jasmine Orsted.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Students of Mind. Jasmine's story is really amazing to me, so I was really excited to share this episode with you all. What you heard on the show today is actually a fraction of what Jasmine has had to endure in her lifetime so far, and I really appreciate her willingness to be so open about her story. Please be sure to look at the description of this episode, and there you can see how you can follow Jasmine. She's got a few things in the works. As you heard, she's working on a book, and that's one of many things, so you'll want to follow her in order to know when those things come out. As always, all of the links for the Students of Mind team's social media are in the description of the episode. Thank you again for listening. I hope you learned something new or resonated with something you heard today, and I will see you next time.